Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and we are live at myworldpod.com. And of course, we couldn't do it without the greatest professional wrestler of all time and your friend and mine, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Connie, what the heck have you got me doing this afternoon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota? No, well, it's our maiden voyage on what do we call it here? YouTube special. But
Yeah,
no, I'm
man,
I'm yeah. So I'm happy to be here. Did a little dynamite last night in Champaign, Illinois. Drove over to Bloomington. Not a lot of big airports. Several regional in Central Illinois, not far from She's Baseball, and made my way to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I have a media day here tomorrow, Conrad. So AEW, but man, what a last couple of 2 weeks! Triple Mania, Wembley, football season's upon us. You're going to take an ass whooping here come soon. So, what you got on tap for me this evening?
Man, there's a lot to talk about, and I can't wait for us to talk about Wembley. And we want to hear from you. If you've got a question for Jeff, keep them coming. We're going to get to as many live questions as we can. But before we talk about Wembley and what a crazy UK experience that you had, we should probably talk about some breaking news. Since you and I talked, we found out that we lost another member of our wrestling family. The late, great Sid Vicious has passed away at just 63 years old. Whether you knew him as Sid Justice or Psycho Sid or Sid Vicious, there was only one Sid in professional wrestling. You got to spend some time with him in the WWF and in WCW. And of course, he, like everybody else, came through Memphis. What can you tell us about the late, great Sid Vicious?
Man, oh man, Conrad. God, this life is short, and I'm glad you brought this up. And the passing of Sid, a lot of folks, God, and there's a good Instagram follow about old wrestling tapes and downtown Bruno and Sid and the Memphis studios. But Conrad, I was either going into my sophomore or junior year of high school, and I got to. This is probably one of the first times that I really wrapped my head around the business being, shall I say, the nuts and bolts of it was work because I got to witness a training session, and I've always called Sid, new Sid, as just Big Sid. And Tojo, in his broken English, Tojo Yamamoto was giving him a training session. He would drive up from Arkansas, and so I got to see a Sid training session. Then, of course, in the Memphis days, and as you said, we worked in WCW, WWF. God, bless his heart, I was in the ring when he had that terrible leg break. So me and Sid's careers, we wove in and out many, many times, and all the stories and the accolades. And man, if you just really, really knew Sid, and I say this with all due respect, I'm one of them, but Sid was just a good old country boy from Eastern Arkansas. It's just that simple, man. A unique look, to say the least. And he would, yeah, he wouldn't mind, but just, and when I say sweetheart of a guy, because you just never expected that. But again, I knew him before I actually really broke into the business, and just as he was breaking in. So life is fast. None of us get out here alive. That's just the cold hard facts. And but when you lose one of the brothers, it gives us an opportunity to kind of reminisce and think through. And oh man, many a times I've chuckled at Sid and Bruno's relationship, but just Sid and being on the road. And I think I saw Kevin Nash make this comment. Somebody said, and man, I just went, yeah, spot on. Sid never missed a workout. He was a workout freak in a real good way. It made him tick. So uh, we lost one, Conrad, but Sid, what a unique cat he was.
I loved his work. He was one of my favorites as a kid, and I've got to see a lot of his stuff this week. Such a big fan. I want to ask you one more thing about Sid before we move on and we talk more about Wembley and what's to come in AEW and, well, in Chicago too. But we've all heard the narrative about Sid. Oh, LOL softball. Oh, softball was more important. And it all came down to reliability. A lot of times people would say, oh, you couldn't count on him. He'd just no show you and go play softball. I don't think it really clicked for me. This is just my opinion, of course, but I saw so many pictures this week that it finally clicked. All these pictures of Sid with his wife and with his sons and with his grandkids. Sid, the family man, not the menacing movie villain heel from wrestling, just grandpa. Maybe all that softball talk was really code for I want to get home to my family. And who can blame a guy for that, right?
Conrad, and look, buddy, our friendship, we know each other inside and out. And, there's some folks that I think, for the lack of a better word, just I love this business. I'm not ashamed to say it. I love it more today than I did when I broke in, and that's taken in 37 years and a lot of ground and a lot of towns and a lot of heartache, but ups and downs. But Sid was a guy, like I said, a good old country boy that was never married to the business. And I say that out of complete respect. He probably had his priorities straight from day one and really never got off center of that. Uh, God and his family, and his wife and his kids, and hanging out with buddies. And yes, a softball game came in there, but he, in a respectful way, because he loved the business, but he looked at it as a job, in my opinion. And if you didn't really want to work on Sid's terms, he wouldn't get upset about it. He's just like, all right, I was looking for a job when I found this one. I'll move on down the road. If y'all can't deal on my terms, because he was never, I, I don't know what the word would be, but just, defiant, like, hell no. It was just, no, man, I won't be there. Well, Sid, we got you booked. Oh, I know. I won't be there. I've got to do this, and not in a mean way, and not in a I'm going to ghost you way, and not any other way. And it just wasn't working for him. So, like I said, I've got, and I did. I always had kind of unique respect on that matter, that he just never married the business in probably a very positive way.
I want to ask one more question about Sid, and then we'll move on and talk about Wembley. But in all the years you were in the big seat in TNA, was there ever a serious discussion about doing anything with Sid?
He came to the very first office of TNA, Johnny Cash Boulevard, Gallatin Road, and he was in that, coming out of the leg. The leg was the leg break, and that obviously happened the last, what, Conrad, last 12 months of WCW. And so, it took him a bit to get over that. And the short answer is no, we never had serious discussions. He wasn't interested. We weren't interested. But I know that the leg, he had issues, and then I think there was some litigation. Never did really hear that, any resolution, all that. But no, there wasn't, Conrad, as far as Sid and TNA.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this past weekend. What an incredible milestone it was for AEW. Another huge, incredibly successful event at Wembley Stadium. Around 55,000 tickets out is what we're hearing. That's going to be comparable to what WWE did for their SummerSlam event in a stadium in Cleveland. Anytime you can cram more than 50,000 people in for any event, it's a home run, no matter what the venue is. Mega show, man. And before we got there, you guys did a show in Wales, and that required that you not only did Dynamite, but you did Collision. So it wound up being a long night, but way into the wee hours, it's time for Double J's match. And man, that went viral. They loved you in Wales. Tell us about it.
Oh, Conrad, it's a pretty cool story. Flew over Monday night. Flew over Monday night, got in Tuesday afternoon. We left late Monday night. Anyway, Tuesday. So from Heathrow to Cardiff, reason I tell you this, rode a double-decker bus, and as we pulled into the venue, all of it just kind of clicked back that I've worked this venue a couple of times. It gets really, really loud. It's one of those venues that, Conrad, I wish you could have it, not because of the reception, but just because of the setup and the people are on top of you. And man, the fans absolutely love it. So I've worked that venue multiple times back in the 90s. At the end of the day, I guess there's a few bright spots for longevity, Connie. That late in the evening, everybody was feeling no pain, and they're appreciative. Cardiff, hats off to you folks. Very, very huge thanks from the Last Outlaw. But the United Kingdom, I've done a lot of work over there through the years with TNA. I've been there with WCW, WWF, multiple times on other spoken word tours, and just I've done a lot of business over there. So been in the market quite a bit. And Connie, that was a lot of fun. It was as fun for me to see Karen's reaction and just some other folks around ringside and coming back through the curtain. And I think it caught some folks internally by surprise. I was very appreciative of it. Yeah, it caught me a little by surprise because they were loud and they didn't stop the chants. And gotta love it, Connie. I gotta ask you, I'm gonna flip the script. When you saw the highlights for the first time, what did you think?
You know what? Rather than me give you an answer, let's play a clip from Wales right now. Awkward and uncomfortable was that for you? I mean, the guy who has made his entire career off of being hated, being cheered now, that had to be unusual, right?
Oh, buddy. And like I said, they didn't downshift to fourth gear or third gear, and damn sure it wasn't in neutral. They kept it going the entire time. Ari Davari, the premier athlete, and his pre-match promo and talking about Premier League, and yeah, it was a nice setup. I don't know, Conrad, what world are we living in? What? And damn you, Conrad. I mean, just damn you. I'd just leave it at that. You're part of all this shenanigans and this cheering and all this nonsense.
Dude, I thought it was fantastic. It made my day. I couldn't be happier to see you get that reception over there. But then I got to tell you, man, I was blown away with the reaction we saw for you in Wembley. I mean, I knew you were going to get a pop, but man, that was a Road Warrior pop, one of the biggest of the night. It's going to be up there with Bryan Danielson. It's going to be up there with Sting. I mean, what did the Queen think when you guys walked out and instead of a chorus of boos and F you Jarrett like not that long ago, man, it was like Hulk Hogan 1985 in there that night.
She's uncomfortable. I mean, it's just as simple. And she's like, they ain't cheering me, Jeff. And I said, well, just relax and enjoy the ride. But, to me, is such a good villain. She's comfortable in that role. But Cardiff, to kind of go back there, that completely caught her off guard. She just, as a second and in the we'll call it the babyface role, and she's not stirring up anything, and she certainly did need to get the crowd going. They were going. She had fun with it, and she's having fun with it. And we right before we went out, and there's a picture posted earlier today on My World that they had a photographer right backstage, Conrad, literally right before you went through the curtain, but they had a little setup back there to get different image shots and 2 camera crews. And shout out to all of AEW production for the whole weekend. Just they covered everything on top of everything. When I came through the curtain, they wanted comments, but right before we went out, they snapped some of those photos, and we looked at each other and like, man, and that match concept, Conrad, is special. I'm I loved it the first time I saw it. The one in Orlando, just kind of the cadence in it. You don't know obviously who's coming out, and the time intervals. You don't really know. You don't know how many guys are in it. So it's a lot of fun, and that builds the anticipation. And I think from the moment, for the most part, when the people saw Hangman, they were like, "Are we going to see him?" And just it was cool, Connie, when the as they call it, the Bree Woo, when that hit, it was pretty damn cool. I'll say that. They came up.
Do you think in your I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but that's got to be maybe the biggest pop of your career? Because you've always been the
Conrad.
heel, so people are booing you, right? I mean,
Yeah. Without, I mean, you can't. 55,000 people. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't duplicate. Back in the picture money days, Conrad. I will say this: there was a little spot show run, and your favorite song and mine, "Simply Irresistible." And if you hear the how that song starts, there were some little girly pops back in there, but nothing compared to. Did you see our man Tom Campbell's tweet video? When the countdown happened and the music, all that, that was about as organic. Yes, Conrad, I've never had that kind of pop. It was huge. 55,000 people. It was rocking.
Yeah, I found myself watching it thinking, boy, I hope they strap the rocket to this young upstart. It feels like he's getting over with the fans here.
You know what was cool though? Another thing is I was on 0 Hour as an analyst. And so a lot of folks, both as I walked back through the crowd, walking to the desk and walking away from the desk, and even backstage, a lot of folks thought, okay, Jeff's done. They're like, oh, wow, great to see you. And even backstage, there were some folks that didn't know that I was in the Gauntlet. So I guess it was a pleasant surprise for quite a few folks.
I know that in the course of the match, of course, you were gunning for Hangman Adam Page. You guys went nose to nose. You were exchanging blows back and forth. It was super intense. It was exactly what we wanted to see in Wembley. We got to see it. Do you think we know that his dance card is full in Chicago? Do you think there's a chance you guys hook it up at Arthur Ashe, or is it over now?
We'll see. TBD. Did you see his match against Ishii last night?
I did not. I missed it.
Okay. Hard hitting, man. Hangman is a gamer. Yeah, I don't have to tell you that, or any AEW fan that. But we had some chemistry in Chicago. Without question, there was chemistry in Wembley. If I have anything to say about it, it ain't over, Connie. No doubt about it. It's not over.
One of our great follows on Twitter that you and I both enjoy, Andrew Dice Clay, posted a clip of Hangman taking that guitar shot, and he said that in his opinion, it might be one of the best guitar shots he's ever seen in wrestling. When you think back about all the folks who've caught one of your guitar necklaces and they've had to react to that, because I'm sure it's a shock for anybody to get smashed over the head with a guitar. When you took a look at what it did to Hangman Adam Page, where would you rank that all time for great guitar shots for Double J?
And as I'm giving this answer, Mr. Silva, if you'll go back a couple of slides there, in the front of there you go. Connie, do you see that paint job on there?
I do.
Does that remind you of anything? Did you see the Taylor Swift guitar that was
wow? Look at there.
that Wembley presented to her. So hats off. That guitar exploded, man. Like I said, Hangman, a talent level, and I know that there'll be a fair share of folks that say, yeah, we already knew this, but Hangman is super talented. He just his intensity. He's an all-around performer with incredible, not just intensity, but just kind of the different gears he can get in and out of. He had a hell of a match last night with Ishii. Um, when he came out and in the Casino Gauntlet and made his statement with 4, 5, 6 guys, it was his athleticism, his intensity, his timing, his cadence, and his overall persona. He's a gamer at the very, very top of his game.
I do want to talk about the rest of the Gauntlet match because we saw a couple of surprises. One of which that everybody had been waiting for quite a while: the debut of Ricochet. Of course, most of us saw what he did on the Independents and over in Japan and in Lucha Underground, but most recently in WWE. What do you expect to see from Ricochet in AEW?
That was a pretty cool moment. We saw each other for the first time right before up on the lift. So it was cool. And look, I'd worked with him at WWE in my role up there in creative and producing and all that. His athleticism, I think Will recently said something to the effect they're on par with athleticism. I agree. He's super athletic. His range, I guess you could say, and I hate to use the word fit in, but there's multiple matchups with Ricochet that he has in front of him that I am sure there are quite a few folks out there that can't wait to see him finally step in the ring again with Ospreay, because those are they're the next generation of professional wrestling performers. They do things in the ring that other guys can't do. It's just that simple.
I'm anxious to ask you about Nigel McGuinness. I know you've known Nigel a long time. He worked with you for quite a while in TNA, and a lot of folks thought one day, man, he'd be in that Daniel Bryan spot over in WWE, and it just didn't work out that way. So I think a lot of folks were excited to see him back on television as a ring announcer, just to have some sort of presence in the thing he loves so much. And first doing that in the WWE, and now most recently doing it in AEW. But he got to wrestle again in Wembley. What a special moment it had to be for Nigel McGuinness, who I'm sure once upon a time thought, well, wrestling may be in the rearview mirror. I'm going to do commentary now. I'm going to do my best Corey Graves, if you will. What a cool moment for Nigel. What'd you think, getting to see him do his thing?
Conrad, and the history of the business, doing all the podcast and just the perspective, but the real true story that you go all the way back to Nigel's childhood was he attended the Wembley event and said, I want to do that. And to fast forward and, his career and the Ring of Honor accolades, and then he was at TNA. And I believe his very last match was Samoa Joe in a TNA ring. And, just overnight, it was career came to an end. And then he kept on, keeping on. And I think he's a fantastic color commentator that gives just the insight that other guys can do, that when you have in-ring experience, you call a match or commentate a match or give. I think that's, at the end of the day, I think that's one of the things that made Lawler so damn good. He'd been in there and thought like a wrestler and thought so many things. So Nigel's color commentator career is really just, to me, getting rocking and rolling. But for him to have that moment in Wembley, the childhood dream, if you will, Jesus, how could you not get emotional watching that and coming out that early and surviving? The people in that venue, had he had won, whoa boy. And I think as the match went on, I think that's where that kind of groundswell kept going and going and going. But it was a cool moment. Wembley, all in all, just the whole week, there is so many unique moments. Damn, Connie. I mean, we could. I know we don't have hours tonight, but man, me and you can probably do a whole pod one day, all the ins and outs, because there was literally moment after moment after moment after moment. But Nigel's moment didn't have that had the most backstory of any things because it literally started as a boy, going to a wrestling show and him saying, "I want to do that," and he got to do it.
I'm so happy that he got to do it. I was also so happy to see on the undercard, the pre-show 0 hour, if you will, that we saw Tommy Billington, the the heir apparent to the Dynamite Kid name. And then we also got to see both the Von Erich boys and even Kevin Von Erich throwing the claw on in Wembley. Man, what a cool sort of tip of the cap to wrestling history. That's one of the things I like most about AEW. It's that, we're willing to acknowledge sort of the history of wrestling, and it doesn't have to necessarily be all the WWE style. Really cool to see the Von Erichs and Billington all on such a historic card.
Did you see Tony's tweet, Tony Khan's tweet, hour or two before Wembley? He alluded to that, the Von Erichs and wrestling names and all that. But yeah, it was super cool. You ever seen a 16-man tag match, Connie? We got to see one. I thought that was a very, very cool moment for Satnam. Satnam told me a little trivia note I'll share here. From the time he arrived in Cardiff until the time he got back home, so 4 or 5 days, he gained, I think, 35,000, 40,000 Instagram followers. And so it's just kind of the awareness. Wow. And yeah, I know it's that. So yeah, there was a moment after moment after moment.
Of course, one of the biggest moments of the year was the main event. Bryan Danielson becoming the AEW champion. He had said going into the match, if he didn't become champion, he would retire. He beat Swerve Strickland, but boy, it had a big fight feel. The incredible opportunity that Tony Khan had to license the final countdown. The fans were really into it for Bryan's entrance. It felt like a big time show. And then here came an entire rap performance for Swerve Strickland with Bun B and DJ Who Kid and West Side Gun. I mean, it felt like a major big time boxing match of sorts. And boy, did it deliver. We haven't yet seen what Dave is going to give it, but rest assured it's five stars plus, I'm sure. An incredible match, an incredible finish, and we've got a new champion, and his family was in the front row to see it all happen. I know what high regard you hold Bryan Danielson. What a great moment for Bryan Danielson. Tell us about it from your perspective.
I don't even know where to start. This will sound repetitive to our weekly My World listeners, but Bryan, not the biggest guy, not the strongest guy, not the greatest talker, just everything that we kind of want to put in buckets as a professional wrestler. But when you put all the ingredients together and you have to roll it out, Bryan's the best. He just is. His timing is what, and I used to say this and still say that, but Kurt Angle had a uniqueness for false finishes. Shawn Michaels had uniqueness for weaving stories and big bumps and creating false finishes. And Bryan, the ins and the outs, and his ability to take the viewer or the consumer or the fan in the audience on the roller coaster ride of their lives, where you think the match is over 10 minutes, 15 minutes before it ever ends. And when you get into that kind of, I'll kind of call it match exhaustion, it is where not just suspending disbelief, and that may sound silly to say that in 2024, but you are taken along on a ride, and with the helicopter above Wembley and all the pyro and the wife and kids and the blood and the drama and his opponent. I mean, Conrad, as a professional wrestling promoter, wrestler, and first and foremost fan, you walk away from that and put your head on a pillow and get back on the big bird and fly home the next day. and you really say that's what our business is all about. When you put it all in a nutshell, and whether you're talking to a TV executive, Conrad, or a silly Alabama fan talking Alabama, Tennessee, no matter who you're talking to, if you sit them down and kind of let them watch that from entrance till sign off on the air and Excalibur's call, you just yet you're almost in a way proud to be a wrestling fan, because that's the essence to me of what we do.
I love talking about professional wrestling with you and picking your brain, and I'm so excited that Bryan Danielson is able to have these type of performances. He said that he's going to be winding down his full-time in-ring career, and we heard what's next for him. We've already got a few matches announced for Chicago. We're going to have inside a steel cage, Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. We're going to have MJF working with Daniel Garcia, and Jack Perry, the TNT champion, is getting a shot at Bryan Danielson for the world title. I see a lot of folks, whether it's MJF or it's Bryan Danielson, it does feel like we're trying to grow some new stars, because these are big opportunities for both Daniel Garcia and Jack Perry. Wouldn't you agree?
Huge, huge. And, the depth of the roster, and, just the taking a complete step back of all of professional wrestling. I saw a calendar that may have been 2 weeks ago, but, all the, we'll call them the big shows in a 3-week span, all the different brands. Conrad, it's insane. And AEW has a stadium show that we just finished at Wembley. And then we're going to, I guess you could call it kind of the birthplace. Conrad, would that be, I don't know. It kind of all got started here at All Out in a lot of ways. But no, a Chicago weekend, a back-to-back Collision on one night, pay-per-view the next night. Garcia and Jack, both without question homegrown stars. It's huge, and to have the momentum, I mean, by design in this industry, and we've talked about it on My World. My father and the territory promoters a lot of times tried to shy away from the big show, if you will. Every Monday night or Tuesday night or Wednesday night or Saturday night was the greatest card ever signed, because it's hard to follow. So how do you follow 55,000 people in Wembley? It's very, very tough. And then all of a sudden, we're headed in, and we have, you just named 3 or 4, but we've already got 4 that you go, oh, okay, I want to see it. Cage match, grudge match. Yeah, it's a good time to be a wrestling fan, my man.
Here's what we want to see. Titanium Taxi is with us here live, and he says, any chance we see Double J get a title shot versus Bryan Danielson? Seems Bryan is open to all challengers. Why not the Last Outlaw?
That's a good question, Connie. Put on your Nostradamus hat. What do you think? I mean, it was said from the man himself, Bryan, that, Jeff, we could have gone another 20, 30 minutes. And I'm like, you damn right we could have. So we'll see. Nothing would make me happier. I'd love one more shot in more ways than you can imagine. So I'll certainly, we'll see. We'll see how it rolls out.
I know you probably haven't had a chance to listen yet, but when I recorded Eric Bischoff's podcast this week, or I guess we did a live YouTube reaction show, to the pay-per-view in London.
Y'all did it Sunday night, right?
Yes,
right after.
Yeah. Right after. Yeah. So I said, hey, hypothetically, if we are going to do a Bryan retirement show at a Tacoma Dome, and that's all rumor and innuendo, but if that really were to be his last match, who would you want it to be? I know that Dave Meltzer had reported that Kenny Omega would miss Wembley by 1 month, so he would be back. And they famously had a draw at Arthur Ashe, the very first one, but that's it. I know Once Upon a Time Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, but I don't think that counts. It was 15 years ago. But Okada is tied at 1 apiece with Bryan Danielson, so that could be the rubber match. And as I'm sort of freestyling all of that, Eric Bischoff says, just let it be Jeff Jarrett. Let Bryan's last match be with Jeff Jarrett. And I said, well, technically that means, if we're saying what I think we're saying, Bryan's the champion. So you're suggesting that perhaps Jeff is the AEW champion? And Eric didn't hesitate and said, why not? So I'd love to see it.
Just stop it.
No, I mean, let's get it going. We want Double J as champ. Maybe we can get Tom Campbell and Taylor Swift to make another song. We got Jeff here live. We're going to be hanging around another 25 minutes or so. So if you've got a question, keep them coming. Let's do a question that we got here from Eric Jones. I'm waiting to hear what old Double J thought about having one of the two loudest pops of the night on his entrance in Wembley. The UK people did him right. Who do you think was most shocked in your camp with the reaction that you got? Was it Cody? Was it Karen? Was it Satnam? Was it Jay? Who was most shocked in Camp Double J?
You know what? Oh, well, I was going to say Satnam, but he doesn't have. I'm going to go with Karen. And Karen was focused. And Conrad, you saw that ramp, obviously. I mean, that was a 3-tiered ramp. I mean, you had a BMX bicycle down that thing. The last run was steeper and longer and a lot of momentum. And I knew that I was going to be amped up to head into Hangman, but she was concerned about that. And when the music hit, she squeezed my hand real tight. I'll just say that. Said I have to go with Karen because she was just like. And then she walked through. She's like, "Damn!" But it's fun. Last week we got to celebrate our 14th wedding anniversary over there, and it was just really, really cool. I said it, on the post-match comments. It's a sacrifice, but we both know what we signed up for. But that kind of reception and all the little things that happened along the way on the week and everything that went with that, it was special. And I think Karen, answer your question, I think she'd have to be the most surprised.
Did you think about your dad when you're in Wembley?
Oh, are you kidding me? Last year when I was, they walked up to me and I was just kind of soaking it all in and different set of circumstances. The first, just the concept, AEW's never run a show on United Kingdom soil, and their very first one is a stadium show. Coming back this year, how the business has evolved. And I knew the Australian announcement was coming. Globe Life, that's already been announced. Just how the business has grown and grown and grown. And so not only my dad, but my grandmother, they were so proud in an era where it wasn't always easy to be a wrestling promoter. Looked down upon, kind of different circles, and so they had to persevere and survive different things, and it just but where the business is at today and the position it holds, and my grandmother or father, if they had heard that pop for their kid or grandkid, Connie, they had a grin from ear to ear, and my dad, in Tennessee, obviously starting out the babyface run. And then, my grandmother, she never saw me as a heel when I became, we did a little thing in Texas where I was a heel. Anyway, she always saw me as a babyface. And my dad kind of did too, for the most part, but he got over that through the years, and he embraced it. But when I first started at AEW, well, Conrad, you can relate to this. The Ric Flair last match and him being in attendance, but him kind of seeing, I'll say this, the dynamic of Jeff and Karen at ringside, and just he called it the unpredictability, and you two have a certain chemistry and uniqueness that you kind of feel, and even Jay Lethal said it, we have no idea what those two are going to do. And so just kind of that vibe, and he was, I'll say a fan, but he was proud that his son was a heel, and just kind of the persona and everything going forward. For him to see kind of the last couple of weeks of this baby face, kind of he would have, it made him happy.
I've told you this before. I mean, even when we were first doing the elevator pitch, I guess, for this podcast, I just think nobody has a story like yours in wrestling. I mean, it really is a movie. And I do feel like, and I know we're not actually running the credits on your career just yet, but man, coming out to a hero's welcome at Wembley, that'd be an excellent place to end a movie on the story of Jeff Jarrett, wouldn't it? My goodness.
It ain't over, pal. But the thing you always pop up in my brain, the passing of Sid, and I think about how many times we were together in all the different locker rooms, and then I'll just never forget being thrown out of the ring, and I still to this day I won't watch it back. I saw his ankle, but just all the different moments you could say, Conrad, that was such a God, a gruesome leg break, but just kind of the different moments. But Conrad, take all the different moments, the orchestra or whatever kind of silly stuff you want to come up. There is nobody, I mean, nobody walking the face of the earth that if you would have said, hey, this is what's going to happen in Wembley in 2024. Conrad, do you think anybody would put that on their bingo card?
No chance. No chance.
Zero chance.
Yeah.
Only God.
Yeah.
Zero chance.
Our buddy Andrew Dice Clay is here, and he says you can't
Oh,
underestimate
my man.
how much the UK appreciates what Jeff has done for the UK scene over the last 2 decades. When the scene was dead, we took TNA as our own. People love Jeff over here. How about that?
I was having breakfast, and oh my gosh, I'm going to draw a break. Dice Man. Oh, you are a unique cat, dude, and you know it. But no, he knows his stuff inside and out. But gosh, I guess it's irrelevant. But if I think of it, but I was having breakfast in the next table, and they were talking, and TNA talk came up, and this is another thing that people don't really digest it. That when we went over there, our international sales, India, all over the world at TNA, they were popping and growing and this and that. And the first tour of TNA did well, but we kind of went out on a limb, and it's called Challenge, which is game shows over there, Conrad, but it's free to air. And so they took a risk on us, and we kind of took a risk on that. But when we made that move, you can't compare it because Sky and WWF and just it's a pay TV service. So the universe and the audience were drastically different. But a lot of people saw the TNA brand, Will Ospreay, Grado. There's numerous people that will say, hey, I saw fill in the blank. A lot of people in the UK say, I saw AJ Styles do this or that. Will is the one, when he tells the story, I get goosebumps. He saw an AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, couple of matches, all this. He's like, I want to do that. But Dice, I appreciate you chiming in here this evening. It's it's past midnight where you're at. But no, that is something that the UK market, from the going back to the 90s, lots of tours over there. It's where I really first got to kind of understand it. But in the TNA days, I dove in head first because I knew we could get traction, and a lot of different chess pieces were moving, and I knew the licensing could come on board, and I almost run a whole business out of that. The British boot camp, there was a series and all that. We won't get into when it went south. Not tonight, but man, yeah, the UK, and people know this. It's near and dear to my heart.
We got to do a few more questions here, and we've actually got some that are off topic for Wembley. Let's do it for Alex. He says, in a shoot fight, if Harlem Heat and the Steiner brothers were locked in a room, who's walking out the winner? That's a tough question there, Jeff.
Well, I'm going to say, so if it's locked in a room with no weapons, no nothing, man, if they're in a closed room, the Steiner brothers' amateur background is
Yes.
people to this
No
day
joke.
they'll never really understand how fast Scotty was. Yeah, was. I can't say is. I'll give him a hard time, but man, he is their athleticism. Not saying nothing against Harlem Heat, but their amateur wrestling background is they were all Americans, and there goes a lot with being able to get in tight and yeah, it's Kurt likes to tell stories about the Steiners, and there's others, but yeah. Um, so I have to
I
tip my
know.
cap to
I know the Bulldogs had Matilda, and I know Rick was sort of nicknamed the dog face gremlin. Did you ever know the Steiner brothers to actually have a dog? Is that
oh gosh, Robbie, I call Rick Robbie. He had some just the fun loving dogs, and Scotty had maybe the most charismatic. Yeah, that's probably the right word. He had the most charismatic pit bull that I've ever laid eyes on. His name was Arnie. Imagine that after Arnold Schwarzenegger. But Conrad, he just his paws would come up on you. Yeah, Arnie, charismatic pit bull, most I've ever seen.
Arnie was over, man. Arnie was over.
Oh, buddy, tell me about it.
Instagram wrestling historian, another great follow, says, why did Sting lose the TNA championship back to Kurt Angle just 2 days after Bound for Glory 2007? WTF, Jeff? Do you remember that? Just 2 days later.
Back to Kurt Angle 2 days after Bound for Glory. It's a good question, and I would have to look at. So wait, 2006 was me and Sting. So 2007 was in Municipal Auditorium, I think. Oh, Bound for Glory. So we're sorry, pal. I will look into this and give you a better answer. I have
It
to
was in
try to figure out.
Gas South Arena in Duluth. Sting won in the main event 18 minutes and 20 seconds later.
I wonder if Sting was going away. I don't know. Good question.
Yeah, we
I
need to
will get back with you on that. Yes,
we'll get to
yes,
the bottom.
I will, and I will. We'll do it on the pod.
Sure. Curtis Adams says most of us watched TNA growing up in the UK pre-Impact era. It was free on our evening late night channels. Jeff was one of the stars and the owner. We loved him for it. He's a cult hero. How about that?
How about that? No, but that's folks. I mean, Grado loves to tell different stories like that, and different. Tom Campbell. I mean, there's different cultaholic folks that I did the media tour last year. I was at Talk Sport and not on air personalities, but there were some production folks. They had different stories. It's just people in America they can't even really relate to the TNA brand being positioned where it once was in the United Kingdom.
We've got a fun question here from Michael. He says, how does it feel to see the young GFW talent you signed back in the day succeeding in WWE and AEW, among other places? Is there a sense of pride for having an eye for that talent and helping maybe support them along the way, Jeff?
That is, at the end of the day, as it's, look, I was Conrad in Champagne last night. We taped I'd be interested in getting your comment, interested in getting your feedback next week when we did the top pod, and I'm back home in the seat, and we got a Rampage match. But with that being said, so I love in-ring performing. It's my first true love, but looking at talent and finding talent and really sourcing through, and not just because this guy's got this athletic ability or this promo skills or maybe this kind of buzz. I really love to kind of try to figure out, and who do I want to bet on? Who do I want to really think, all right, this guy, at the end of the day, does he have a passion for it? Is he going to have a mindset to take the bad with the good? It's something that I love doing. And I'm not always right. I've been wrong a lot more than I've been right, but I do love it when I see some success stories. That's for damn sure.
Dan Anderson is with us here, and he wants to get you some heat tonight. And I say, why not?
Uh-oh.
Which of the new AEW arrivals and returns has the biggest upside? So when you're wearing your promoter hat and you're taking a look and you're saying, "Hey, man, I see a lot of value in that." Let's throw some compliments around. Who are you really high on in AEW right now?
Here's where the world has changed because we live, and me and you have talked about this, Conrad, that it's not even a 24-hour news cycle sometimes. Sometimes it's a 12-hour news cycle. And things ebb and flow and ebb and flow and ebb and flow and ebb and flow. Uh, Okada has such a lineage and a background that I believe in America, I'm not talking Japan, in America, he has a lot of upside and it's coming. We are seeing a different side of him. He's doing character development, if you will, which I love because if you show multiple sides of different personalities, me and Karen had that conversation waiting on the plane the other day. We were talking. I'm like, the more you can understand and know, and that's a magic we talked about. It's about Bryan Danielson. You know who his wife is. You know his kids. You know his background. The people that are really wrestling fans know how he came up and Shawn Michaels' protege and this and that, all this. So the new arrivals, I know we're getting at the end. That's something I could talk on forever. But Okada is going to be, look, the easiest low-hanging fruit, Will Ospreay, Ricochet. You're seeing all this upside. Okada, you just wait. It's coming. And there's going to be some things that you go, okay, so he was this great IWGP champion, and then he came over here and he was this and that, all this, and a little bit of comedy here. Just wait. Other arrivals. Trying to think about. I mean, Mercedes Moné, they were on third to last. That's a hard that all the things they said, and if you hear the people in that stadium, they were rocking. I think she's hitting her groove. The question is, who has the biggest upside? Man, there's multiple, but Osprey, Okada, Mercedes all got monster upsides. The emotional heartstrings, and I hope it's sooner rather than later when Omega, and I know he's not a new arrival, but he's hopefully going to be back arriving. Conrad, that's going to be gigantic for the brand.
Yeah, no doubt. We got two more questions, then we'll put a button on this one. Alex is with us live, and he wants to know, did wrestlers have agents in the same way MLB, NBA, etc. have? Did you negotiate your own contracts?
Alex, my man, good question. I have used attorneys through the years, and look, some guys have agents, some guys have attorneys, some guys do it all on their own. I have always encouraged young guys, and I've been asked that question a lot when I've done seminars or even different folks. I encourage guys to get out front and at least be a part, if not lead the negotiations. There's always a time to step aside. But if you let the agent run, some of my agent buddies are going to like, what the hell are you talking about? Because they're not, and agents have a role, and we've got a mutual friend that I saw over the weekend that I think he's one of the top 3 smartest men in all of professional wrestling history. So agents are great, but I've always used an attorney. But I came up different mindset. Sometimes being on both sides, office and agent. Look, it's a part of it. But the young guys of today, I encourage them to really be a part of all the negotiations and understanding, because you gotta guide your own career. It's different. Let me just put one last thing. Wrestling is different than MLB and NBA because of the unions and the player it's just a different playing field. We are not true sport, and we're not true Hollywood. We're that hybrid. We're just different. So that's why I really encourage guys to forge their own way.
Jack Gaffney has a comment before we do our last question. Jack says, Satnam Singh is such a big, intimidating man that he makes fire alarms go off even with no fire present. If you know, you know. Joe Basil says, Jeff, I'll be in the front row for Capital City Clash, and it will be my girlfriend's first show. How big of a donation do I need to make for you to hit me with a guitar and scare the hell out of her?
Oh, boy. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up. We're going to figure this out. No. Good. Joe, Capital City Clash, looking forward to it. And I want to make sure I'm reading this. My girlfriend's first show. So am I hitting you or her or both?
You're hitting him. He wants you to hit him so she'll be scared.
I'm kind of partial sometimes to women. So no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Maybe you
Joe,
can slap figure 4.
There you go, Joe. We'll figure this out. We'll figure it out.
Tell everybody about Capital City Clash and how they can get tickets, Jeff.
Choosebaseball.com. All simple. Choosebaseball.com. Capital City Clash. Our man, Big Bishop, is going to town on social media, but all the stars are signed. We have talent from AEW, Impact, or TNA, AEW, TNA, NWA, got the NWA champ, NWA women's champ, Showtime, EY, I always call him that, Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, myself, Colt Cabana. We have our own version. We have the Robin Roberts Rumble. The Queen will be there. Dreamwave, which is Illinois' premier independent wrestling promotion. We have got Galley Promotions. We've got a luchador coming up. It's stacked. So folks, Saturday, September 21st, setting the ring up on home plate at Robin Roberts Stadium. First time ever, Big Dog Construction locally is our title sponsor, and they are so damn fired up, and we are too.
Well, and we're fired up that you guys joined us here for our maiden voyage going live on YouTube. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell. You don't want to miss the next time we're live, and you'll have your chance to pick Double J's brain. One more time, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell. If you got questions for Double J, drop them in the comments. And hey, if you didn't like the video, that's okay. Give us a thumbs down. We just want to know what you think. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Wherever you are, we appreciate you being here with us at myworldpod.com. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. And Jeff, this weekend, college football is really kicking off. It's getting in high gear. And we're just 1 week away from you and I sitting down and firing up NCAA. I'll be playing as Alabama. You'll be playing as Tennessee. Are you ready?
Are you ready to tote an ass whooping, as they say in Alabama? You ready to tote one, my man? I cannot wait. Cody, he's getting me prepped. We're doing 2-a-days, and I'm in training, and look at you.
Okay.
Oh, Conrad, you're in trouble, pal. You are in trouble. Hey, real quick, who you got? Alabama, Georgia, or Clemson?
Oh, Georgia. It's over for Dabo.
Okay.
And I got Miami beating Florida. You?
Yes, definitely.
I don't even think Florida has a 500 team this year.
Conrad, I'm doing this from a hotel room, and you haven't commented. How'd this work out for you? Seriously, did it work out all right?
It worked out great. I mean, at the very beginning, your internet was a little spotty, but it all smoothed out, and it worked out great. And I appreciate you making time to do this from a hotel room. One last football question before I let you go. It's a big game this weekend. Texas A&M, Notre Dame. What do you think?
Oh, SEC. The Irish is going down. Irish Pat Kenny will be crying, boo-hooing.
I can't wait. Folks, hit the button right now. Subscribe, turn on the notifications bell, and we'll be back live with you here sooner rather than later.
I loved it. Peace.